From the Ventura County Office of Education, this is the Focus on Education podcast. And now, here's your host, Ventura County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. César Morales.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Focus on Education. On this episode, we're starting at the very beginning of the educational journey and talking about the programs for our littlest learners. What happens in the first years of life sets the stage for a child's future. So it's critical that they have access to quality care and educational opportunities. There's no one better to tell us about this than today's guest. Alicia McFarland is the Director of Early Childhood Programs here at Ventura County Office of Education. Alicia, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I want to kick off with a question to get us going. Why is it so important to focus on early childhood?
That's a great starting question. And as a First Five Commissioner, right? So you're not just our superintendent, you're also a First Five Commissioner. And so that intro, you already started to highlight some of the reasons why this is an important time frame. It's a critical time of development. There's such rapid growth happening, not just in those first 5 years, but early childhood actually goes all the way up to 8 years old, which is up through third grade. But we do focus mostly on those first 5 years. And in those first 5 years, 90% of brain growth is happening. It's a really essential time. Not only are children growing physically, which we can see with our eyes, but their brains are building, language is expanding, social competence is growing. There's so much opportunity in those first 5 years. And that's really what makes it a critical time. As you mentioned, it's the foundation for all later development and everything else that comes. I'm fortunate in Ventura County that we have a P20 council, and in that P20 council, we represent that with that cradle to career view of education. And it's just really such a great opportunity for us to think about how we can invest in these earliest years so that we can set the foundation for all those children in Ventura County families for their lifelong learning and development.
So you mentioned and highlighted the importance of from birth to 5 years. And yet we think of the formal schooling structure starting later on, whether it be preschool, now transitional kindergarten, and the access to trained professionals that work with our youth. But when it's birth, till we get to that initial point, parents and those that are caregivers for our kids become very key components of that development. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about how that ecosystem supports the parents to basically do the best that they can as they love and care for their kids.
Absolutely. So you are completely right. Parents, and we say this often in early childhood, parents are the first teacher of any child. They know best, they know what they want for their children, and there is also this really critical system, infrastructure of child care workers, and those are early learning workers. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes we try and distinguish between care and education, like you're pointing out, mm-hmm. But when we're talking about the earliest years, care is education. That is how we work with children. We do playful experiences. We do want to do things that children are interested in. And as we're looking to support our families, we have a couple different groups that we work with in early childhood programs. One of those smaller groups, but has real great power of thinking about how we really leverage a lot of different opportunities in Ventura County is our ECE task force. So that's partnerships across our local First Five. It's our resource and referral, which is child development resources. And the resource and referral is really a group that helps families understand what care options are available to them if they're looking for care. They also support family, friend, and neighbors, which might be a grandma or aunt who's watching somebody's child at home, that they can watch them and they're considered a family, friend, and neighbor, mm-hmm. and they can get professional development through that. Our local First Five has parent and child together classes. And those parent and child together classes, families can go with their child to get some really great opportunities to engage with other families in some playful activities that really support them in engaging and playing with their children, and as well as understanding development and what's happening. There's so much going on. Also, a part of our ECE task force is the Economic Development Collaborative, and that's because there's also family childcare homes, which are home-like environments that care for children, and those are businesses. So we have almost 650 of them in Ventura County, and those businesses also get support. And so the Economic Development Collaborative is definitely a part of this ECE task force to understand or to support us in making sure that we are doing everything we can to support a thriving economic business side of the childcare sector, as well as almost 300 center-based programs that exist in Ventura County. So lots out there to help families as they are wanting and seeking to do whatever they determine is best for their children.
It is so great to hear so much care, concern, and strategy that goes into maximizing every experience that a child has from birth all the way through the beginning of their formal experience in school. The importance of childcare, the importance of caregivers and family and friends. I think it's very important for the public to see how much we value our youth and our young ones here in Ventura County, and how it's such a strong collaborative effort where folks are coming together from public agencies, nonprofit sectors, to come together to make the ecosystem as strong as possible. And how great to hear that we have over 600 small businesses of folks in homes strengthening that child care experience, and that we have an interface and connection with them so that they can receive training and support to make those experiences the best we can for our kids. This is great. Transitioning, what does specifically the Early Childhood Programs Department do here at VCOE? I mean, I think you hit a lot of things already, but if you want to highlight some of the main functions of our department.
Absolutely. And we have a website underneath VCOE. And so there's definitely, if people want to take a deep dive into all those initiatives, they absolutely can. I would be remiss if I didn't mention how fortunate we are to get to work at the county office, to get to work under leadership who really values and recognizes the importance of early care and education. And that really allows us to do the great work we get to do. In addition to those really important partnerships, we really have some big arms. One of them is around advocacy. That's through our local planning council, where we act as the united voice for early care and education. It includes 25 members who are approved by you, the superintendent, as well as by the board of supervisors. And we're always looking at what's that landscape of early care and education, what are the priorities, and what are the needs, and how do we work to meet them. In addition to advocacy, we really do a lot around workforce. How are we supporting the workforce? Through lots of different initiatives. Our Quality Counts Ventura County program. We have 6 dedicated coaches on the team who do work with programs individually around goals that they've set. We also have trainings that we do, both countywide trainings as well as individualized targeted trainings. Those trainings are often around California's early learning and development system and tools and resources that have been endorsed. And then we also do a lot around inclusion, partnering with our SELPA, with our Rainbow Connection Family Empowerment Center. There's so much happening in the county. And I'll close by just calling attention to 2 things for the workforce. Teaching Stars, which is a program to increase and retain the workforce. We are giving money to early childhood educators who have returned to school, who are working to increase their education, or who are looking at this field as a career option. And then we are also really doing a lot of work with our school districts and charters who are expanding transitional kindergarten through our universal pre-kindergarten and transitional kindergarten supports.
Oh, awesome. And that you're walking right into the next question I had, which is, what is universal pre-kindergarten? And what I'm going to ask you the next one, because you're going to need to kind of talk about the difference and similarities. Universal pre-kindergarten and what is transitional kindergarten? And over the years, what's been the current status of that transitional K rollout? Because we've been amidst it a few years already.
We have been, you're right. So, yeah, you're right. They all kind of go together. So it's appropriate to ask it together. Universal Pre-Kindergarten, or UPK, like it's often called, is an umbrella term that we use. So it's a term to recognize that families have choice in where they choose to place their children at that 3-year-old and 4-year-old age range. So what that means is we have a whole mixed delivery system. It might be abuelita who's watching the child at home, and that's a family friend and neighbor. It might be the small FCC. It might be a private or faith-based program that a family chooses. They might also choose subsidized programs, or they could choose TK. So TK is one of the choices in our pre-kindergarten infrastructure in the state of California. Transitional kindergarten, like you said, it's our newest grade level. It began recently expanding. So over the past few years, it's been expanding and getting a little bit more attention. Next year, we're at what I call full implementation. So next year, any child who turns 4 within a school year is eligible to go to transitional kindergarten. Transitional kindergarten, like kindergarten, it's not a mandated grade. It's a choice for families, but it's a great opportunity for families who are looking for free, universal access to get that. It's provided by our school districts or by charters who are choosing to provide transitional kindergarten. And in Ventura County, we really had our districts and charters embrace the expansion. They absolutely were expanding beyond the required age levels to serve as many children as they could in transitional kindergarten. We ask our districts and our charters to tell us every year, where are you at? How's it going? And this year, they let us know that they're serving about 4,000 transitional kindergarten students. So for context, we have in our county about 8,700 4-year-olds. So that's almost 50%, or like 45% of families are choosing transitional kindergarten as their experience for the 4-year-old in their lives.
Oh, great. So we have almost 4,000 more that we can serve.
Yeah.
And for the public to know, all of our school districts and education community are working hard to create the best learning environments for our TK students. So we're interested in serving all of your families and students' needs. Let's dive in a little bit more in depth. Can you go into explaining what the Quality Counts Ventura County is?
Absolutely. So Quality Counts Ventura County is our local branding, our local term for a statewide initiative called Quality Counts California. And it's actually part of a larger national movement, which is quality rating improvement systems. And big picture, what it's all about is how do we help families understand what quality care looks like in these youngest years? What is appropriate? What's developmentally appropriate for a 3-year-old, for a 4-year-old? What quality programs look like? And then it's also to help the workforce. How do we help the workforce in maintaining the quality programs that they're already offering and to work towards whatever goals they've set for themselves as they're working to achieve even greater quality programs? So that's where that coaching team comes in. They work with those programs. We're so proud to have 100% of our state and federal programs participating in this. We also serve around 80 family childcare programs in this system. We have our Parent and Child Together programs from the first 5 participating in this program as alternative sites. And we also support family, friend, and neighbors who are working to become licensed as family childcare programs in this system. This is where they get professional development. We go out and do observations, assessments on some recognized tools, and just really all around are figuring out how do we help them meet their goals, including giving them some financial incentives.
So your team, our team here in the early childhood department, not only works here at the office, but they're out in the field.
Absolutely. They're out in the field a lot. So they're definitely going to family childcare homes, going into centers, and really just wanting to be available to support programs and working towards whatever it is they've set as a goal for themselves.
You've touched on this already a little bit, but do you want to go more in depth about the early childhood workforce in Ventura County?
Sure. I love to talk about the workforce in Ventura County. So I didn't coin the term, but people often talk about heart work and hard work. And so this is absolutely one of those fields where it is hard work. People are choosing this field and they are choosing to work in early care and education. So often people who choose to work in this career, they do it understanding that they might be paid less than other aspects of our educational system and if they chose to work in a different setting. And they choose it despite that fact. Recently, last year, we worked with UC Berkeley to do a study of our workforce in Ventura County. And what that study showed us are some things that we expected to see. And like the rest of California, like the national landscape of early care and education, we find that, unfortunately, this field is not paid a living wage. We found that about 50% of our respondents said that they needed to access at least one form of public assistance. So we do know that, but it's not without hope, because we also saw from these same respondents that they want to continue to work in this field. They are choosing to stay here, and they want to continue working in early care and education. And that's so important because during COVID, we found that this is an essential workforce. We sometimes like to say this is the workforce behind the rest of the workforce. They are caring for families' children so that those families have the ability to go to work themselves. And so they're really an essential component of our educational system, and a component that's working with those kids as they're building that 90% brain growth during those first 5 years. So we have a really dedicated workforce. It's settling and figuring out how we increase access to infants and toddlers, how TK has kind of opened up things for that 4-year-old. And so we really have a workforce that wants to do right by the children and families in Ventura County, and they're committed to continuing to work in this field.
During this conversation, we've definitely highlighted the importance of those years from birth to 5 years old, and the importance of those that are interacting with our infants and toddlers and young students along with their families. And it's so sad to hear that the wages and salaries associated to some of these very key foundational professions in a child's development are underpaid. And I would say because of that, it seems that on a statewide level, it seems like an undervalue. So we're definitely going to need some infrastructure changes. I've appreciated the renewed importance of early childhood over the last years here in California. We have had some record funding and infusion into the system. However, we do need to look at how it's broken down and how we can continue to support a consistent workforce, because if folks can't afford to live in our county or to have a living wage, we're going to have disruption in the workforce because people are going to be coming in and out. And since it's so essential, it's just tough to hear. I know I get an opportunity to advocate and work on supporting different types of legislation. But this is one of those moments where all of us in the field and all of us in the community, if we value early childhood ed, whenever we have an opportunity to support our legislators or to communicate with them on the importance of increased funding for early childhood, we need to take advantage of those moments. So editorial comment there for a sec. Why is it hard for families to find affordable childcare, and what can be done about it?
Yeah, so the affordable is the word there, right?
Yeah.
That is most important. And so, like I mentioned, there's almost 300 center-based programs, 650 family childcare homes. So there's a lot of care options out there, but it's that affordable piece that becomes the hard part. We know that, especially if we're talking about infants, that can cost on par with a child going to college. It is expensive, and it's expensive for a reason. It's because we have laws and rules about how many children you should be caring for at a time, and there's lots of health and safety aspects that are in place to ensure that we're caring for infants in the way that they should be cared for, but it isn't without cost. So it's really, it can be challenging for families to figure out how to budget that in to their household budget. We know that it's getting easier as the state has advocated for programs to serve additional infants and toddlers. California state preschool programs are now starting to serve younger 2-year-olds, which is exciting. Transitional kindergarten expanding, which is one of the ways California is trying to help ease that burden for families, definitely is another way that it's helped free up some spaces in our other systems for families to find care. And then in addition to finding care, we know that 0 to 2-year population is largely served by family childcare programs in Ventura County. So that's usually who's serving those ages. What can be done about it? You just did a great job editorializing on what we can do. What we have available to us is really our voices. That's the greatest tool that we have. It's talking to our elected representatives. It's letting them know what we need. It's letting our legislators know that this is what we want. We want there to be the true cost of care taken care of for the early care sector and for the children. And And they're starting to do some of this right now. California is working on what we call rate reform, and that's trying to figure out how they recognize what it really costs to care for children and to do a better job at paying that true cost of care. And that will hopefully ease some of the burden for families who are working to afford care if they are eligible for subsidized services.
Great. We have a long way to go in this area, but I am so proud of the work in Ventura County and definitely the leadership that you've taken, along with many of the leaders in early childhood from a lot of our organizations that are partnering to make the early childhood experiences as best possible here in Ventura County. Where can parents go for help finding childcare and early education programs?
So California does a really great job on this one, actually. We have a strong infrastructure. There's a resource and referrals, what it's called. And locally for us, that's Child Development Resources. And they have staff who are dedicated to supporting families who are looking for care and telling them what they're needing. And those staff will help provide some possible placements for those families. So that's one option. Of course, if you're looking for TK, that's done through our school districts and our charters. And so our own VCOE website helps families if they don't know what school district they should be looking to. It helps them understand what school district they're a part of so they know who to talk to about transitional kindergarten. And then there is a whole website called mychildcareplan.org, which families can go to. They can input different data points, what ages you're looking for, what hours you need, what kind of care you're looking for, and it will populate some responses of where are some licensed programs in Ventura County that they can consider.
Awesome. We've gotten some valuable nuggets there in that last response. We'll make sure that those resources are highlighted on our website and make that information available to the public as best we know how in all of our mediums. Before we wrap up, Alicia, I want to give you an opportunity to share with the community some final thoughts, whether it be on your department, but early education in general.
Yeah, I would say there are a lot of people at the state level, at the regional level, and here locally that are wanting to do the best they can for children and families. And we all want the same thing. We want our families to thrive. We want children who feel successful and who are feeling ready for what comes next when they get to kindergarten, first grade. And our department's no different. We absolutely have a strong team of 13 individuals who are dedicated to supporting the workforce, to supporting families, and to supporting each other as part of this team to make sure that we strengthen partnerships, that we advocate where we can, and that we do whatever we're able to support those who are working with our youngest learners.
Thank you, Alicia, for all you do to build brighter futures for Ventura County's children. And thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Focus on Education is a production of the Ventura County Office of Education. We encourage you to subscribe and join us each month for new episodes. You can find Focus on Education wherever you get your podcasts or at vcoe.org/podcast. We also welcome your feedback. You can email us at communications@vcoe.org.